Millionaire disguises himself as a cleaner to see how his girlfriend treats his mother, and is shocked. Andrew Parker never imagined he would resort to disguising himself to find out if his girlfriend truly loved him. At 35, he had built a business empire that allowed him any luxury, but past betrayals had left deep scars on his soul. It was when he met Emily Watson that his life gained new meaning. But now, 3 months later, doubts consumed him. She worked as a nursing assistant at a private clinic in downtown New York, cared for her sick mother, and always refused his expensive gifts with a shy smile. "Are you sure you want to do this, Dr. Andrew?" asked Robert, his driver of over 10 years, watching his boss put on the orange window cleaner uniform. "I have to know the truth, Robert. I can't go through the same thing I did with Jessica." Andrew adjusted his safety harness and checked the equipment borrowed from an outsourcing company that serviced the building where Emily worked. The memory of his ex-fiancée still stung. Jessica had feigned love for 2 years, planning every gesture, every sweet word, until Andrew discovered by chance that she was already committed to another wealthy man before even meeting him. The blow was devastating. Andrew had used his contacts to secure a temporary spot on the cleaning crew at St. Mary's Clinic. His plan was simple: observe Emily for a few days when she thought no one important was watching. He wanted to see how she really behaved, away from the expensive dinners and romanticized moments they shared. "Good luck, boss. Miss Emily seems like a serious young lady." Robert waved from the window of the discreet car that dropped him off 2 blocks from the clinic. "That's what I need to find out," Andrew murmured, carrying the yellow bucket and cleaning supplies toward the 12-story building. The first day was harder than he had imagined. Andrew had never done such manual labor with his hands. The ropes hurt even with gloves, and maintaining balance on the suspended platform required total concentration. But none of that mattered when he saw Emily for the first time through the 4th-floor window. She was helping an elderly lady eat, with a patience that surprised him. Her movements were delicate, almost motherly, and she spoke softly to the patient while adjusting the pillow. "Mrs. Dorothy, would you like me to turn on the TV?" Emily's voice came muffled through the glass. Andrew focused on cleaning the window while discreetly observing. Emily wore the clinic's blue uniform and kept her hair tied in a simple bun. She seemed genuinely concerned about the patient's well-being. "My dear, you are an angel." The elderly lady's weak voice moved him. "My own children haven't come to see me in weeks, but you always have time to talk to me." Andrew saw Emily hold the woman's hand affectionately. "Your family is busy, but I'm sure they think of you every day," Emily replied with a gentleness Andrew had never witnessed in their dates. During lunch, Andrew joined the other cleaning staff in the small basement cafeteria. Richard, a man of about 50 who led the team, welcomed him kindly. "You're new here, right, son? What's your name again?" "Mike." Andrew had chosen a fake name to maintain his disguise. "It's my first day." "Relax, you'll get used to it. This clinic is a good place to work. The nursing staff treats us with respect." Richard bit into his homemade sandwich. "Especially that new girl on the 4th floor, Emily. Always greets everyone by name." "She does seem nice." Andrew forced casualness into his voice. "Nice? Man, that girl is a saint. She's always doing overtime to help families who can't afford it. Last week she stayed until 2 in the morning, taking care of an abandoned child that arrived here." Andrew's heart raced. Emily had never mentioned anything about working beyond her hours. In fact, she always arrived punctually to their dates, never seeming tired or stressed. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, feel free to leave a like and especially subscribe to the channel. It really helps us who are just starting out. Now continuing. On the afternoon of the first day, Andrew witnessed something that left him confused. Emily was talking on the phone in the hallway, and her voice sounded tense. "No, Julie, I can't accept your money. I already told you I'll figure it out on my own." She was pacing back and forth, clearly agitated. Andrew pretended to be busy cleaning a nearby window, trying to hear more of the conversation. "I know you want to help, but I need to handle this by myself. Mom can't know I'm having a hard time." Emily lowered her voice even further. "I managed to get some extra shifts on the weekend. It'll work out." The conversation ended, and Emily stood still for a few seconds, taking a deep breath before returning to work. Andrew noticed she quickly rubbed her eyes as if holding back tears. That information intrigued him. Emily was going through financial difficulties and hadn't mentioned anything to him. In fact, whenever Andrew offered help or expensive gifts, she politely refused, saying she didn't need anything. On the second day, Andrew was assigned to clean the windows on the 5th floor, where the palliative care unit was located. It was there that he met Mrs. Helen Watson, Emily's mother. The lady was sitting in a wheelchair near the window, watching the city's movement. Andrew estimated she was about 70 years old, with completely white hair and a serene expression, despite her apparent fragility. "Good morning, young man, Mrs. Watson greeted when Andrew started cleaning the outside window. Andrew waved politely and continued working, but he could hear when Emily entered the room. "Hi, Mom. How was physical therapy today?" Emily kissed her mother's forehead. "It was good, my dear. Claire said I'm improving. Maybe in a few weeks I'll be able to take a few steps with the walker." Andrew discreetly observed the interaction between the two. The affection was palpable, and Emily treated her mother with a dedication that moved him. "I brought a special snack for you." Emily took a small container from her bag. "I made that milk pudding you like." "You didn't have to go to the trouble, dear. I know you're working too much." "Nonsense, Mum. I like cooking for you." Emily helped her mother taste the dessert. "And I have some news. Remember I told you about Andrew? He wants to meet you." Andrew's heart raced upon hearing his name. "Ah, the rich boyfriend." Mrs. Watson smiled. "You really like him, don't you, dear?" "I like him a lot, Mom. He's different from the other guys I've met. He's kind, smart, and treats me with a lot of respect." Emily sat in the chair next to her mother. "I'm just a little scared." "Scared of what, my dear?" Emily hesitated before answering. "Scared that he'll find out about our situation and think I'm with him for his money. You know how mean people can be." "Dear, if he truly loves you, our financial condition won't matter. A man of character looks at a woman's heart, not at the size of her bank account." Mrs. Watson's wisdom touched Andrew. "You're right, but it's hard not to feel insecure sometimes. He's used to a different world than ours." Andrew had to step away from the window for a few moments to process what he had heard. Emily was worried about exactly the same issue that tormented him, but from the opposite perspective. She was afraid of appearing materialistic, while he was afraid that she was materialistic. During lunch on the second day, Andrew talked more with Richard and discovered details about the Watson family that changed his perspective. Mrs. Helen was a math teacher at a public school, Richard recounted while sipping his coffee. She had worked there for over 20 years when the accident happened. "What kind of accident?" Andrew asked, genuinely concerned. "She fell from the school ladder during a storm. She was trying to close a window that was banging and slipped. She injured her spine and had difficulty walking." Richard shook his head, thoughtful. "The family lost everything paying for the initial treatment." "And Emily?" "A real fighter. She was in her final year of nursing school when it all happened. Dropped everything to take care of her mother. Started as an assistant here at the clinic to pay for Mrs. Helen's treatment." Andrew felt bad about all the suspicions he had harbored. Emily wasn't a gold digger. She was a devoted daughter who had sacrificed her own dreams to care for her mother. "She's always been like that since she was little," Richard continued. "I remember her as a child, visiting her mother at the school where I worked as a janitor before coming here. Always polite, always helping those in need. Have you known each other for a long time?" "I've known the Watson family for over 15 years. They're good people, son. Honest, hard-working. Emily could have married 3 different guys who came around offering an easy life, but she always refused. Said she wanted to find someone who truly loved her, not someone who wanted to buy her." That revelation was like a punch to Andrew's gut. Emily had rejected other relationships that could have solved her financial problems. This completely contradicted the image of a materialistic woman he had created in his mind. On the third day, Andrew witnessed a scene that almost made him abandon his disguise right then. Emily was being confronted by Mrs. Margaret, the clinic administrator. "Miss Emily, we need to talk about your mother's bill." Mrs. Margaret's voice sounded impatient. I know I'm a little behind on this month's payment, but I'll get the money by Friday. Emily maintained her composure, but Andrew could see her hands trembling slightly. A little behind. It's 3 weeks overdue, and you gave me that excuse last month. Please, Mrs. Margaret, I'm working extra shifts this weekend. I'll be able to pay everything, plus the interest. I understand your situation, but this is a private clinic. I can't maintain treatments without payment indefinitely. Your mother will have to be transferred to the public hospital if you don't settle the situation by Monday. Andrew saw tears spring from Emily's eyes. Mrs. Margaret, please. My mother is responding well to the treatment here. A transfer now could harm all the progress she's made. I'm sorry, but those are the rules. The administrator withdrew, leaving Emily alone in the hallway. Andrew watched as she leaned against the wall and cried silently for a few minutes before pulling herself together and returning to work. At that moment, Andrew was absolutely certain that Emily wasn't with him for money. If that were the case, she would have asked for help long ago. Instead, she was working herself to death so she wouldn't have to depend on anyone. During the afternoon break, Andrew overheard a conversation between Emily and another nursing assistant that impressed him even more. Emily, you're looking awful. When was the last time you got proper rest? Asked Jennifer, a co-worker. I'm fine, Jen. Just a little tired. A little? You're working here Monday through Friday, pulling shifts at City General Hospital on weekends, and still taking care of your mother. This isn't a life. It's temporary. Once I save enough to pay off everything here, I can cut back on the extra shifts. And what about that boyfriend of yours? From what you've told me, he's in a position to help. Andrew paid close attention to Emily's response. Andrew can't know about our financial situation. He's been really hurt by gold-digging women before. If I tell him about our problems, he'll think I'm with him for money. But if he truly loves you, that shouldn't matter. It's complicated, Jen. I'd rather handle everything on my own and tell him later. That way he'll know my feelings are genuine. Jennifer sighed. You're too stubborn, Emily, but I admire your strength. My mother always taught me that dignity is a person's most precious possession. I'd rather struggle with my head held high than live in plenty, feeling ashamed of myself. Andrew stayed silent, absorbing those words. Emily was protecting their relationship in the same way he was trying to protect himself. The irony of the situation was almost cruel. On the fourth day, Andrew witnessed a moment that completely transformed his view of Emily. It was Mrs. Helen Watson's birthday, and the nursing assistants had organized a small surprise party. Andrew was cleaning the outside windows when he saw Emily enter her mother's room carrying a small homemade decorated cake. "Happy birthday, Mom," Emily sang along with the other staff members. Mrs. Helen Watson was visibly moved. Emily had stayed up the previous night baking the cake and buying a small gift with money she'd saved for weeks. "Honey, you didn't need to spend money on me." Mrs. Helen Watson hugged her daughter. "Today is your day, Mom. It deserves to be special." Andrew watched as Emily gave her the present, a small photo album with family memories. She had printed old photos and created a timeline of Mrs. Helen Watson's life. "Look, Mum, this is from your graduation as a teacher, and this is from my first day of school when you walked me there." Mother and daughter flipped through the album together, laughing at the memories. The simplicity and love of that moment contrasted sharply with the lavish parties Andrew was used to attending. "My daughter, this is the most beautiful gift I've ever received in my life." Mrs. Helen Watson held Emily's hand. "Not because it's expensive, but because of the love you put into every page. You deserve so much more, Mum. I promise that one day I'll give you everything you deserve. Honey, I already have everything I need. You. Your love and dedication are worth more than all the treasures in the world." Andrew had to step away from the window because his eyes started to blur. He had never witnessed such a pure display of filial love. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, please take a moment to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It really helps us who are just starting out. Now continuing. During the impromptu party, Andrew overheard Mrs. Helen Watson talking with the other staff members about Emily. "You can't imagine how proud I am of that girl." The lady's voice was choked with emotion. "She gave up so many things to take care of me." "Emily really is special, Mrs. Helen Watson," Jennifer agreed. I've never seen anyone so dedicated to family. Sometimes I feel guilty. She should be finishing college, going out with friends, building her own life. Instead, she's here taking care of a stubborn old woman. You mustn't think like that. Emily had overheard the conversation and approached. Taking care of Mom isn't a sacrifice, it's a privilege. How many people wish they had more time with the people they love? Even so, honey, I wish you were happier. That I would find someone special to share my life with. Who said I haven't? Emily smiled shyly. Andrew is very special. So when will I meet this young man? You've been together for 3 months and he's never come here. Soon, Mom. I'm waiting for the right moment. Andrew realized Emily was postponing the introduction because she was ashamed of her family's financial situation. She wanted everything to be resolved before bringing her boyfriend to meet her mother. That night, after work, Andrew discreetly followed Emily to the bus stop. She was waiting for the bus that would take her to City General Hospital, where she worked night shifts on weekends. When the bus arrived, Andrew saw her hesitate before boarding. She looked exhausted, but took a deep breath and got on for another work shift. Andrew returned home with a heavy heart. After 3 days of observation, he had discovered Emily was everything she appeared to be. An honest woman, hard-working, dedicated to her family, and genuinely in love with him. And the worst part, she was hiding from him for the same reason he was hiding from her. On the 5th day, Andrew decided he would end the disguise. He had seen enough to be certain about Emily's character. But an unexpected conversation changed everything. Andrew was cleaning the windows in the main hallway when he heard familiar footsteps. It was Dr. Henry Williams, a renowned cardiologist and longtime friend. "Good morning, Mike." Dr. Henry greeted Andrew by his fake name. "Good morning, Doctor," Andrew replied, trying to disguise his voice. "You're new here, aren't you? I don't remember seeing you before." "Yeah, I started this week. Are you enjoying the work?" "It's been interesting." Dr. Henry stopped and looked more closely at Andrew. "Your voice seems familiar. Have we met before?" Andrew tensed up. Henry was perceptive, and they had known each other for years. "I don't think so, Doctor. Must be your imagination." Maybe. Well, welcome to the team. This clinic is a great place to work." Andrew breathed a sigh of relief when Henry walked away, but realized the disguise was becoming risky. It was only a matter of time before someone recognized him. That's when he witnessed the conversation that changed everything. Henry entered Mrs. Helen Watson's room for a routine checkup, and Andrew could hear the conversation through the slightly open window. "How are you feeling today, Mrs. Watson?" the doctor asked. "Much better, Doctor. The physical therapy is working miracles." "Excellent. And how's your mood?" "Oh, Doctor, I'm worried about my daughter. She's working herself to death because of me." "Emily is an admirable young woman. I don't know many people with such dedication." "That's true, but sometimes I wonder if it wouldn't be better for her to leave me in a public hospital and get on with her life." "You mustn't think like that. The love you show for each other is rare these days." "Doctor, may I ask a personal question?" "Of course, Mrs. Watson." "What do you think of Emily's boyfriend?" Andrew paid extra attention. "Well, I haven't met him personally, but from how she talks about him, he seems like a good young man. She's very happy with him. She won't stop talking about how kind and polite he is. But I have one concern." "What is it?" "She said he's very rich. I'm afraid our situation might push him away from her." "Why do you think that?" "Rich men sometimes have prejudices against simple people like us, and Emily is very proud. She'd rather suffer alone than ask for help." "Mrs. Watson, if this young man truly loves Emily, the family's financial condition won't matter. And from what I see, your daughter is a person of impeccable character. Any man should consider himself lucky to have her in his life." "Thank you for your words, Doctor. I just want to see my daughter happy." "She seems happy when she talks about him." "That's already a good sign." Andrew walked away from the window with a heavy heart. Mrs. Helen had been worried about exactly what he had done, judging the family by their financial situation, and Emily was suffering alone to protect the relationship. At that moment, Andrew made a decision. He couldn't continue with that game any longer. Emily deserved honesty and he needed to tell the truth about everything, but before he could act, an unexpected situation complicated everything. Andrew was putting away the equipment at the end of his shift when he heard a heated argument in the hallway. Mrs. Margaret was talking to someone on the phone. "Yes, I understand the family is having difficulties, but I can't make exceptions. If all patients delayed payments, the clinic would close," she spoke in a firm tone. Andrew realized the conversation was about Mrs. Helen's bill. "No, I don't accept installment plans. The payment must be in full, or the patient will be transferred on Monday." Andrew's heart raced. It was Friday, and Emily had until Monday to get the money. He knew she wouldn't be able to gather the full amount over a weekend. Andrew had an impulse to reveal his identity right then and pay the entire bill, but something stopped him. Emily would be devastated if she found out he had disguised himself to spy on her. The relationship would end immediately. That night, Andrew couldn't sleep. He kept thinking of ways to help without revealing his disguise. He considered making an anonymous payment, but knew Emily would be suspicious. On Saturday morning, Andrew decided to go to the clinic, even though it wasn't a workday. He wanted to check if Emily was on duty and maybe find an opportunity to help discreetly. That's when he witnessed one of the most touching scenes of his entire experience. Emily was in her mother's room, talking about the financial situation honestly for the first time. "Mom, I need to tell you something." Emily's voice was choked up. "What is it, my dear?" "We're having trouble paying for the treatment here at the clinic. If I can't get the money by Monday, you'll have to be transferred to the public hospital." Andrew saw Mrs. Helen take her daughter's hand. "Honey, why didn't you tell me before?" "I didn't want to worry you. I thought I could handle it alone." "What about Andrew? Can't he help?" "Mum, I can't ask him for money. If I do that, he'll think I'm with him for his money." "My dear, if he truly loves you, he'll understand the situation." "It's very complicated, Mum. He's been hurt by other women who only wanted his money. If I tell him about our problems now, he might think I'm like them." "And if you're transferred to the public hospital?" "We'll manage, Mom. The important thing is that you continue your treatment." Mrs. Helen sighed deeply. "Honey, you've already done so much for me. Maybe it's time to accept help." "Do you want me to ask Andrew for money?" "I want you to be honest with him. If you have a serious relationship, he needs to know our reality." "What if he breaks up with me?" "Then you'll find out what kind of man he really is. Better to know now than later." Emily was silent for a few moments. "I'll think about what you said." Andrew walked away from the window with a tight feeling in his chest. Emily was considering telling him the truth, but for all the wrong reasons. She thought she was risking losing her boyfriend, when in fact what she might lose was his trust if she discovered his disguise. During the weekend, Andrew couldn't concentrate on anything. He kept imagining Emily working double shifts at the City General Hospital, exhausting herself trying to gather the impossible amount of money. On Monday morning, Andrew arrived early at the clinic. "I wished I could be there when Mrs. Helen Watson's situation was resolved one way or another." That's when he saw Emily Watson arriving with a defeated expression. It was clear she hadn't gotten the necessary money. Andrew Parker saw her talking to Mrs. Margaret in the clinic lobby. "Did you get the money, Ms. Watson?" The administrator showed no compassion. "I got part of the amount. I brought 70% of the total." Emily handed over an envelope with money. "I'm sorry, but I need the full amount. Those are the rules." "Please, Mrs. Margaret, it's all I could get. I promise I'll pay the rest next week." "I can't accept it. I'll arrange for your mother's transfer to the public hospital later today." Andrew saw Emily's eyes fill with tears. "She's responding so well to the treatment here. Please, just a few more days." "Impossible. The decision is made." At that moment, Andrew made an impulsive decision that would change everything. He approached the reception desk. "Excuse me, Mrs. Margaret." Andrew spoke without thinking of the consequences. "Yes?" The administrator looked at him without recognition. "I'd like to make an anonymous payment for Mrs. Helen Watson's bill." Emily turned to look at him, but showed no recognition. To her, he was just Mike, the window cleaner. "What do you mean?" Mrs. Margaret asked suspiciously. "I've known the family for a long time. I'd like to pay the entire bill in cash." Andrew took out a large amount of bills from the wallet he'd prepared for that situation. "I can't accept this," Emily quickly interjected. "I don't know you." "Ma'am, sometimes angels appear in our lives when we need them most." Andrew looked directly into her eyes. "Accept this help as a gift from fate." "But I can't." Emily was visibly emotional. "You can and should. Your mother needs to continue the treatment here." Mrs. Margaret counted the money and confirmed the amount was correct. "Well, if that's what you want, I'll process the payment." Emily looked at Andrew with tears in her eyes. "Why are you doing this?" Andrew hesitated. He wanted to tell the truth but knew it wasn't the right time. "Because I believe good people deserve help when they need it. How can I thank you?" "No need to thank me. Just keep being the wonderful daughter you are." Emily couldn't hold back the tears. "You don't know what this means to my family." "I know more than you think," Andrew replied softly. After the transaction was completed, Andrew quickly walked away. He knew he'd complicated the situation further, but he couldn't stand by and watch Emily suffer. For the rest of the morning, Andrew watched Emily telling the good news to her mother. Mrs. Helen Watson's joy was contagious, and Andrew felt good about providing that moment of happiness. But in the afternoon, a conversation between Emily and Jennifer left him worried. "Emily, are you sure you don't know that man who paid your mother's bill?" her friend asked. "I'm sure. I'd never seen him in my life before this week. But he seemed to know you. And where would a window cleaner get that much money?" "I don't know, Jen. Maybe he saved for years, or maybe he won the lottery. Or maybe he's not really a window cleaner." Emily stopped what she was doing. "What do you mean?" "I don't know. But there's something strange about this whole story. A complete stranger doesn't pay a $15,000 hospital bill without a very strong reason. Do you think it could be some kind of scam?" "I don't know what to think, but be careful." Andrew realized his attempt to help had created suspicions. Jennifer was perceptive and starting to question his identity. The next day, the situation became even more complicated. Andrew was cleaning the windows on the 3rd floor when he heard Emily talking on the phone. "Hi, Andrew. How are you?" She was speaking to him over the phone. Andrew nearly dropped his squeegee upon hearing his own phone conversation from outside. "I'm fine, honey. And you?" He could hear his own voice coming from Emily's cell phone. "I'm fine too. I wanted to tell you something amazing that happened yesterday." "Go ahead." "An angel appeared in my life. A man who works at the clinic paid my mother's entire treatment bill." Andrew grew tense. Emily was telling about his own intervention. "What do you mean? What man?" "A window cleaner. He said he's known our family for a while and wanted to help." "That's very strange, Emily. Don't you think it's suspicious?" "Why suspicious?" "A stranger doesn't do that without a reason. It could be some kind of scam." "Andrew, you're being paranoid. The man is a worker, simple, and made a kind gesture. Still, be careful. Promise?" "I promise. You're very protective, you know? It's because I love you and don't want anything bad to happen to you." "I love you too." The conversation ended, and Andrew became thoughtful. He himself had warned Emily to be careful with Mike, not knowing he was talking about himself. During lunch, Richard commented about the anonymous payment. "Mike, did you see all that commotion yesterday? Someone paid Mrs. Helen's bill." "Yes, I did. It was very beautiful." "Emily won't stop talking about it, says it was a miracle. Who do you think could have done it?" "I have no idea, but whoever it is, they're a good-hearted person." Richard drank his coffee. "Emily deserves that luck. I've never seen anyone work so hard for love of family." "She really is special," Andrew agreed sincerely. "She is. And that boyfriend of hers is lucky to have found a woman like that. Do you think he knows how to appreciate her?" "I hope so. Rich men sometimes don't understand the value of life's simple things." Those words struck Andrew like an arrow. Richard was right. He had been so obsessed with money and status that he almost missed the chance to know an extraordinary woman. On Wednesday, Andrew decided he would reveal his identity by the end of the week. He couldn't continue with that game of lies any longer. But an unexpected event accelerated the happenings. Andrew was cleaning the windows of Dr. Henry's office when he entered with a colleague Andrew knew very well, Dr. Marcus Fleming, a cardiologist at the hospital where he himself was treated. "Henry, I need to tell you something strange that happened to me yesterday," Dr. Marcus was saying. "What was it?" "I ran into Andrew Parker at the East Side Public Hospital." Andrew's heart stopped. "The businessman Andrew Parker, what was he doing there?" "That's the strange part. He was dressed as a cleaning employee asking about patient transfer procedures. Very strange indeed. When I greeted him, he pretended not to know me, acted as if he really were a janitor." "Are you sure it was him?" "Absolutely. I've known Andrew for years. I've been treating his blood pressure since he had those heart problems from stress." Andrew was in panic. If Dr. Henry discovered that Mike was actually Andrew Parker, the whole disguise would be destroyed. "Why would a millionaire disguise himself as a janitor?" Dr. Henry asked. "I have no idea. Maybe it's some kind of psychological problem related to stress. Or maybe he's running from something." Either way, it was very strange. The conversation ended, but Andrew knew he was at serious risk of being discovered. It was only a matter of time until Dr. Henry made the connection between Mike and Andrew Parker. That afternoon, Andrew witnessed a conversation between Emily and Mrs. Helen that left him even more distressed. "Daughter, have you told Andrew about our financial situation yet?" her mother asked. "Not yet, Mom. After what happened with the anonymous payment, I'm afraid he'll think I planned all of this." "What do you mean?" "If I tell him now that we were struggling, he might think I set up that whole situation to manipulate his feelings." "Honey, that doesn't make sense." "Yes, it does, Mom. Gold-digging women are capable of anything to get money. He might think I paid someone to fake that whole scene." "My dear, you're overcomplicating things." "I'd rather wait a bit longer. When our situation is more stable, I'll tell him everything." Andrew realized his attempt to help had created an even bigger problem. Now, Emily was afraid to tell the truth because it might look like a setup. By the end of Wednesday, Andrew made a drastic decision. He couldn't wait any longer. On Friday, he would reveal everything to Emily and hope she understood his reasons. But on Thursday morning, everything fell apart. Andrew was arriving at the clinic when he saw Dr. Henry talking with the security team in the lobby. "I want you to check the identity of all outsourced staff," he was saying. "There are suspicions that we have someone using fake identification." Andrew's heart raced. Dr. Henry had discovered his identity and was taking action. Andrew tried to slip in through the service entrance, but was intercepted by the head of security. "Excuse me, Mr. Mike. I need to see your documents." "My documents? Why?" "Routine procedure. All outsourced employees are being verified." Andrew knew he was finished. The documents Robert had arranged for the disguise wouldn't withstand closer scrutiny. "Actually, I forgot my documents at home today." Andrew tried to buy time. "I'm sorry, but you can't work without documentation. You'll have to go home and bring everything." "Of course, no problem." Andrew walked away quickly, knowing he couldn't return. His disguise had come to an end, and now he had to face the consequences. Throughout the day, he kept thinking about how to tell Emily everything. He knew she would be devastated to discover she'd been deceived, but he could no longer live with that lie. On Friday evening, Andrew gathered his courage and called Emily. "Hi, honey, what a surprise," she answered cheerfully. "Emily, I need to talk to you. It's important." "Did something happen?" "I need to tell you something in person. Can you meet me tomorrow?" "Of course. Where?" "At the cafe where we met, at 2 in the afternoon. "Is everything okay, Andrew? You sound worried." "Everything's fine. I just need to talk to you about something important." "You're making me nervous." "Don't be. I love you." "I love you too." Andrew hung up with a heavy heart. The next day, the whole truth would be revealed. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, please take a moment to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It really helps us who are just starting out. Now continuing. On Saturday morning, Andrew woke up with a sense of dread that stayed with him throughout his shower and breakfast. Robert noticed his boss's nervousness. "Dr. Andrew, are you sure you want to tell Mrs. Emily everything?" the driver asked while organizing some documents. "I have no choice, Robert. I can't live with this lie any longer." "What if she doesn't forgive you? Then I'll have to accept the consequences of my actions." Andrew sighed deeply. "She deserves the truth." "You've really fallen for her, haven't you?" I fell for the most principled woman I've ever met, and I almost lost her because of my paranoia. You were protecting yourself after what happened with Mrs. Jessica. I was protecting myself the wrong way, Robert. Emily isn't Jessica. She's everything I've ever looked for in a woman. At exactly 2 in the afternoon, Andrew was sitting in the cafe, anxious. He had chosen a secluded table in the corner, away from prying ears. When he saw Emily coming in, his heart raced. She looked beautiful, wearing a simple blue dress with her hair loose over her shoulders. But Andrew noticed a worried expression on her face. "Hi, honey." Emily kissed him on the cheek and sat down. "Hi, dear. How are you?" "Worried. You made me nervous yesterday on the phone." Andrew took a deep breath. It was now or never. "Emily, before we talk about what I need to tell you, I want you to know that everything I feel for you is real and true." "Andrew, you're scaring me. What happened?" "I did something that might hurt you a lot. But I want you to understand that I never meant to hurt you. Can you just tell me already?" Andrew looked into her eyes, searching for courage. "Emily, do you remember the window cleaner who paid your mother's bill at the clinic?" "I remember. Why are you asking about him?" "Because that man was me." Emily looked at him without understanding. "What do you mean?" "I disguised myself as a window cleaner to observe you at work. I wanted to know how you behaved when you thought no one important was watching." Emily's face completely changed. Confusion gave way to disbelief and then to hurt. You disguised yourself to spy on me." "Disguised? Emily, let me explain. You lied to me for a whole week?" Her voice was rising. "I was afraid." "Afraid of what?" She stood up from her chair. "Afraid that you were with me for money. I've been through that before, and you thought I was like the others." Tears started to well up in Emily's eyes. "No. I mean, I didn't know. That's why I wanted to observe you." "Andrew, you humiliated me. You made a fool of me for days." "Emily, please, sit down. Let me explain properly." "Explain what? That you don't trust me? That you thought I was a gold digger?" The other customers in the cafe started to look in their direction. "Emily, please, lower your voice. Let's talk calmly." "Calmly?" She grabbed her purse. "You played with my feelings, lied to me, treated me like I was a criminal, and you want me to be calm?" "Emily, wait. And the worst part is that you paid my mother's bill as if it were a favor from a stranger. Made me feel grateful for a kindness that didn't even exist. It wasn't like that, wasn't it? Then how was it, Andrew? Were you testing to see if I'd ask for money later?" "Emily, sit here, please." "I can't believe I was so naive. I thought you were different from other rich men." "I am different. That's exactly why I got scared. Different? A different man doesn't spy on his girlfriend in disguise. A different man trusts the person he says he loves." Andrew stood up and tried to hold her hand. "Emily, give me a chance to explain. I found out that you're exactly what I've always dreamed of finding in a woman." "Oh, so now I passed your test. Good for me." The sarcasm in her voice cut like a blade. "It wasn't a test." "Yes, it was. You tested me like I was a candidate for a job." "Emily, I love you. If you loved me, you would have talked to me about your insecurities. You would have been honest from the start." "You weren't honest with me either," Andrew retorted without thinking. "What do you mean? You never told me about your financial difficulties. You lied about being a graduated nurse." Emily looked at him with an expression of deep disappointment. "I lied to protect myself from men exactly like you, men who think poor women only get close to them for their money." "Emily, and you know what the difference is, Andrew? My lies were to protect myself from being judged. Yours were to judge me. It wasn't like that. That's exactly how it was. You had already judged me before even getting to know me properly." Emily walked toward the cafe exit. "Emily, wait. Let's talk this through." She stopped and turned around. "We have nothing left to discuss, Andrew. You made it very clear what you think of me." "I've changed my mind. I discovered you're the most principled woman I've ever met." "Discovered after spying on me for a week. How romantic." "Emily, please, goodbye, Andrew. And thank you for the favor of paying my mother's bill. I'll return every cent." "You don't need to return anything." "Yes, I do. I don't accept charity from someone who doesn't trust me." Emily left the cafe, leaving Andrew standing in the middle of the restaurant, watched by all the other customers. Andrew returned home devastated. Robert tried to comfort him, but he knew he had lost Emily forever. During the following days, Andrew tried calling her several times, but Emily wouldn't answer. He even went to the clinic, but she asked security to prevent him from going up. 1 week after the revelation at the cafe, Andrew received an envelope at home. Inside was all the money he had used to pay Mrs. Helen's bill, plus a letter from Emily. "Andrew, as promised, I'm returning the money you paid for my mother's treatment. I got a bank loan to settle this debt. I don't hold any grudges against you. I understand your past experiences made you distrust people, but I can't be with someone who doesn't trust me. True love is built on trust and honesty. We had neither of those things. I hope you find the happiness you're looking for, and I hope you learn to trust the next person who comes into your life. Emily P.S. My mother doesn't know anything about our situation. To her, you just got too busy with work to visit. I prefer she keeps a good memory of you." Andrew read the letter several times, feeling the weight of every word. Emily was so elegant and mature even in her farewell. During the following weeks, Andrew buried himself in work, trying to forget the pain of loss. But he couldn't stop thinking about Emily and how he had destroyed the best thing that ever happened to him. 1 month after the breakup, Robert brought news that left Andrew even more distressed. "Dr. Andrew, I need to tell you something," said the driver. "What is it, Robert?" "I ran into Mrs. Emily yesterday at the downtown pharmacy." Andrew's heart raced. "How is she?" "Not very well, doctor. She looked tired, worn out, and she's lost a lot of weight." "Did she say anything?" "She greeted me politely, but you could tell she didn't want to talk." "And her mother?" "She was transferred to the public hospital, as you already knew." Andrew sighed. He knew Mrs. Helen had been transferred because Emily could no longer afford the costs of the private clinic, even with the loan she had taken. "Robert, do you think there's still a chance she'll forgive me?" "Honestly, doctor, I think it's very difficult. Mrs. Emily felt very betrayed." "I know. And she had every reason to feel that way. Do you really want her back?" "More than anything in life." "Then you need to prove you've really changed." "How?" "I don't know, doctor. But it has to be something that shows her you've learned to trust people." Andrew kept thinking about Robert's words for days. How could he prove to Emily that he had changed? That's when he had an idea. Andrew had discovered through contacts in the medical field that Mrs. Helen needed an expensive surgery to improve her condition. The procedure would cost over $50,000 and wasn't available through the public health system. Instead of simply paying for the surgery, Andrew decided to do something different. He launched a fundraising campaign for Mrs. Helen Watson, mobilizing his network of business contacts. He organized a charity event at one of the most luxurious hotels in New York, inviting all the business owners he knew. But the difference lay in how he presented the campaign. Instead of talking about a needy family, Andrew told the real story of Mrs. Helen Watson, a dedicated teacher who had educated hundreds of children for over 20 years, a woman who had raised an exemplary daughter alone and who now needed help to regain her quality of life. Andrew did not mention his relationship with Emily at any point. For all intents and purposes, he had learned about the family's story through his clinic and had been moved by the situation. The event was a success. In a single night, Andrew managed to raise not only the money for Mrs. Helen Watson's surgery, but also enough to cover the entire post-operative treatment at the best clinic in the city. But the most important thing was what Andrew did next. Instead of giving the money directly to Emily, he set up a fund managed by a reputable institution. The money could only be used for Mrs. Helen Watson's medical expenses, and Emily would have full control over treatment decisions. Andrew also arranged for Emily to receive an official letter from the institution, explaining that she had been selected as a beneficiary of a solidarity campaign organized by New York business owners in honor of retired teachers. When Emily received the letter, she was touched but suspicious. It was too much of a coincidence for this help to appear exactly when her mother needed it most. It was Jennifer who discovered the truth. "Emily, did you see today's newspaper?" Her friend arrived excitedly at the public hospital where Emily now worked. "No. Why?" There's an article about a charity event that happened last week. Look at this photo. Jennifer showed the newspaper page to Emily. In the photo, Andrew was handing a symbolic check to a representative of a charity organization. Businessman Andrew Parker organizes event to help retired teacher. Emily read the headline aloud. Emily, this is the event that raised the money for your mother's treatment. Emily read the entire article. The journalist described how Andrew had learned about Mrs. Helen Watson's story and decided to mobilize other business owners to help. The article talked about the importance of valuing retired teachers and highlighted Mrs. Helen Watson's professional journey. Jennifer, this can't be a coincidence. Emily's eyes were teary. Of course it isn't. He organized all of this for you. But why? I returned the money to him and made it clear I didn't want any more contact. Because he truly loves you, Emily. And maybe he's learned to show it the right way. But he could have just paid for the surgery. He could have. But he didn't. He involved other people, created a whole awareness campaign. He made sure to honor your mother's story publicly. Emily reread the article, paying attention to every detail. He doesn't mention our relationship at any point in the interview. Exactly. He didn't do it for attention or to emotionally blackmail you. He did it because he genuinely wanted to help. Jennifer, I don't know what to think. Emily, how many ex-boyfriends do you know who would do something like this? None. Then maybe you should talk to him. I don't know if I can forgive what he did. I'm not telling you to forgive him. I'm saying you should at least hear what he has to say. That night, Emily talked to Mrs. Helen Watson about the discovery. Mom, I found out who organized the campaign to pay for your surgery. Who was it, my dear? Andrew. Mrs. Helen Watson was silent for a few seconds. Andrew, your ex-boyfriend? Yes. But how did he know I needed the surgery? Emily told her mother the whole story, the disguise, the discovery, the fight, the breakup, and now the charity campaign. Mrs. Helen Watson listened to everything in silence without interrupting. Honey, that boy truly loves you, she said when Emily finished telling the story. Mom, he lied to me for an entire week. And didn't you lie to him for 3 months? It's different, is it? You both lied out of fear. He was afraid you were a gold digger. You were afraid he was prejudiced. But he spied on me and found out you're exactly the woman he thought you were at the beginning of the relationship. The problem wasn't what he discovered about you. It was the method he used. Exactly, the method was awful. It was. But honey, how many men would do what he did afterward? Organize an entire campaign, involve other people, spend time and money, all to help his ex-girlfriend's mother. Emily became thoughtful. He could have simply paid for the surgery. He could have, but he didn't. He insisted on doing it the right way this time. No lies, no disguises, no trying to control the situation. Do you think I should talk to him? I think you should listen to your heart. My heart is confused. Then listen to your head. What does your reason say about a man who makes a serious mistake, acknowledges it, and then dedicates time and energy to try to make amends? That he truly regretted it. Exactly. And what does your reason say about a man who could have solved everything with money, but chose to do it the hard way? That he learned something. My daughter, I'm not telling you to get back with him. I'm saying you should at least give him a chance to apologize properly. If I talk to him, it doesn't mean I'll forgive him. Of course not, but it means you're mature enough to give dialogue a chance. 2 days later, Emily gathered her courage and called Andrew. Hello? He answered on the first ring. Hi, Andrew. It's Emily. Emily. The surprise and joy in his voice were evident. How are you? I'm fine. Can you talk? Of course, I can always talk to you. Andrew, I found out about the campaign you organized for my mother. Oh. He was speechless. I wanted to thank you, and I also wanted to talk to you in person. Really? The hope in his voice was touching. Yes, can we meet? Whenever you want. This afternoon? At the same cafe where we talked last time. Sure. What time? 3 o'clock. I'll be there. Andrew? Yes? Thank you for what you did for my mother. You don't have to thank me. Yes, I do. I'll see you at 3. Andrew hung up the phone with his heart racing. He didn't know if Emily was willing to rekindle the relationship, but at least he would have the chance to talk to her. At 3 in the afternoon, Andrew had already been at the cafe for 15 minutes when Emily arrived. She looked thinner, as Robert had observed, but still beautiful. "Hi," she sat down across from him. "Hi, thank you for calling." "Andrew, first of all, I want to thank you for what you did for my mother. Her surgery is scheduled for next week. I'm glad it worked out." "Why did you do it?" Andrew took a deep breath before answering. "Because I wanted to help you guys the right way this time. No lies, no disguises, no trying to control the situation. You could have simply paid for the surgery. I could have, but it wouldn't have been the right way. I wanted other people to know your mother's story and be moved by the cause of retired teachers. And it worked. I read the article in the newspaper. Your mother deserves all the recognition she received and much more." Emily was silent for a few seconds. "Andrew, what you did to me was very painful. I know, and I regret it every day. You made me feel like I was a criminal under investigation. Emily, I was wrong, completely wrong. Why? Why did you do that? Out of fear, out of insecurity. Because I'd been hurt before and hadn't managed to get over that experience. Do you think that justifies what you did? No, it doesn't justify anything. It was wrong, it was cruel, and it was a violation of your privacy and our relationship. And how can I be sure you won't do it again? You can't. I can only give you my word that I've learned my lesson. Your word doesn't mean much to me right now, Andrew. I understand." "What exactly did you learn?" Andrew thought carefully before answering. "I learned that true love is built on trust, not on surveillance. I learned that my fears and insecurities are my problems, not yours. And I learned that you are exactly the woman I've always been looking for, and I almost lost you because of my paranoia." "And what else?" "I learned that you deserved honesty from the start. I should have talked to you about my insecurities instead of creating a scheme to test you. That's right. Emily, I don't expect you to forgive me. I know I broke your trust in a way that may be irreparable." "Then why did you call me to talk? It wasn't me who called you, you called me." "That's true, I was the one who called." "Why? Why did you want to talk to me?" Emily hesitated before answering. "Because what you did for my mother showed me a side of you I didn't know." "What side?" "A man capable of dedicating time and energy to help other people. A man who doesn't solve everything with money." "And did that change anything in how you see me?" "It did, but not enough to erase what happened between us. I understand." "Andrew, you hurt me deeply. I know, and I'm sorry for that. It's not just the fact that you spied on me, it's what it represented." "What did it represent?" "That you don't trust me. And how can I be with someone who doesn't trust me?" "Emily, I trust you now. Now that you've tested me and I passed your criteria." "It wasn't like that." "Yes, it was, Andrew. You put me in a test I didn't even know I was taking." "You're right. That's exactly what I did." "And now you want me to believe you've changed?" "I want you to give me a chance to prove I've changed." "How?" "However you want, with as much time as you need." Emily stayed silent, absently stirring the sugar in her coffee. "Andrew, what exactly are you proposing?" "I'm proposing we start over. No lies, no disguises, no games." "As if we'd never met." "As if we were two people who met, fell in love, made mistakes, and now want to try to build something solid based on honesty." "And do you believe that's possible?" "I do, but it only works if you believe it too." "I don't know if I believe it, Andrew, and I understand that. I need time to think. Take as much time as you need. And if I decide I don't want to try again, then I'll accept your decision and hope that you'll be happy with someone who knows how to value you from the start. You really have changed, haven't you?" "I'm trying to change every day. For me. For me. For you. For us. And especially for who I want to be from now on." Emily finished her coffee and got ready to leave. "Andrew, I'll think about what we talked about." "All right. And thank you again for my mother's campaign. It was the least I could do." "It wasn't the least. It was much more than most people would do. Your mother deserves it." "And Andrew?" "Yes?" Next time you're afraid or insecure about something, talk to me. Don't create a plan to spy on me. I promise. I'll think about us, okay? Okay. Emily stood up to leave but stopped before reaching the door. Andrew? Yes? I love you too. That's why it's been so hard. I know. If we try again, it has to be different. It will be. I promise. We'll see. Emily left the cafe, leaving Andrew with a mix of hope and anxiety. During the following 2 weeks, Andrew respected the space Emily had asked for. He didn't call, didn't send messages, didn't try to pressure her in any way. On the day of Mrs. Helen's surgery, Andrew sent just a simple message. I'll be rooting for everything to go well with your mother's surgery. You're a wonderful daughter. Emily replied hours later, Thank you. The surgery was a success. During Mrs. Helen's recovery period, Andrew volunteered for some of the charity organization's events that he had helped create. He wanted his change to be real, not just words. 3 weeks after the conversation at the cafe, Emily called Andrew again. Hi, Andrew. Hi, Emily. How's your mother? Very well, the doctors are impressed with her recovery. That's great news. Andrew, can you meet me tonight? Of course. Where? At the clinic. I want you to meet my mother officially. Andrew's heart raced. Are you sure? I am. She wants to meet the man who organized the campaign to help her. And you want me to meet her? I do. I think it's time. What time? At 7. Is that okay? It is. Emily. Yes. Does this mean you've decided to give me a second chance? It means I want to see how you behave when you meet my mother, knowing that she knows who you are. Another test? No, Andrew. This time it's not a test. It's just a daughter wanting to introduce her mother to someone important in her life. I'm important in your life. You've always been important. That's why it hurt so much when you didn't trust me. Emily, see you at 7. At 7 o'clock sharp, Andrew was at the reception of the private clinic where Mrs. Helen had been transferred back after the surgery. Emily greeted him in the lobby. Hi, she greeted him with a shy smile. Hi, I'm nervous, Andrew admitted. Why? Because your mother's opinion is very important to you, and consequently to me too. My mother is a wise woman, she'll like you. How can you be so sure? Because despite all the mistakes you made, I know you have a good heart. They went up to Mrs. Helen's room. When they entered, Andrew saw a white-haired lady sitting in a comfortable armchair with a serene expression and intelligent eyes. Mom, this is Andrew. Emily made the introduction. Andrew, Mrs. Helen smiled warmly. Finally, I can meet you in person. The pleasure is all mine, Mrs. Helen. How are you feeling? Much better, thank you. The doctors say in a few weeks I'll be able to walk with the help of a cane. That's wonderful news. Sit here next to me. Mrs. Helen indicated a nearby chair. I want to talk with you. Andrew sat down, and Emily settled into an armchair on the other side. Andrew, first I want to thank you for everything you've done for our family. The campaign you organized changed our lives. You don't need to thank me. It was a privilege to be able to help. But I want to thank you, and I also want to talk about my daughter. Mom, Emily tried to interrupt. Let your mother speak, dear. Mrs. Helen addressed Andrew again. She told me the whole story about you two. The whole thing? The whole thing. The disguise, the lies, the fight, the breakup, everything. Andrew swallowed hard. And what did you think? I thought you two are very similar. How so? You both were afraid of getting hurt, and so you lied to each other. You both protected your hearts instead of opening them completely. You're right. But there's an important difference between your lies. What? Emily's lies were to protect herself from being judged. They were there to judge her. Andrew lowered his head. You're right, and I deeply regret that. Andrew, look at me. He raised his eyes and met Mrs. Helen's calm gaze. My daughter told me you asked for a second chance. I did. And do you believe you deserve this second chance? Honestly, I don't know if I deserve it, but I know I've learned from my mistakes. What have you learned? I learned that trust isn't built through tests. I learned that true love requires vulnerability, not control. And I learned that your daughter is the most honest and courageous woman I've ever known. And if she gives you this second chance, how do you plan to act differently? I'll be completely honest about my fears and insecurities. I'll talk to her instead of creating strategies to test her. And I'll work every day to be worthy of her love. And if a situation arises that triggers your old insecurities, I'll talk to Emily about it. And if necessary, I'll seek professional help to deal with these issues. Mrs. Helen remained silent for a few seconds, studying Andrew's face. Andrew, may I ask a personal question? Of course. Do you truly love my daughter, or are you just feeling guilty about what you did? I love your daughter more than anything in life. The guilt I feel is for almost losing her love because of my paranoia. And are you willing to build a relationship based on equality, not on financial power? I am. In fact, Mrs. Helen, I want you to know that I plan to teach Emily about my businesses so she can participate in important decisions if she wants. What do you mean? I want her to be my partner in every sense, not just a girlfriend who receives expensive gifts. Mrs. Helen smiled for the first time since the conversation began. Andrew, you seem like a good man who made a serious mistake. That's exactly what I am. And my daughter seems willing to give you a second chance. Do you think so? I do. Otherwise, she wouldn't have brought you here to meet me. Andrew looked at Emily, who had remained silent throughout the conversation. Emily? Andrew, I've talked a lot with my mother in the past few weeks about relationships, trust, and forgiveness. And I've come to the conclusion that everyone deserves a second chance, as long as they're willing to make the necessary changes. I am willing. I know. What you did for my mother proved that. So I'm willing to try again, but with conditions. What conditions? First, no lies. Not small ones, not big ones, not white lies. Total honesty always. I agree. Second, if you have any fears or insecurities, talk to me immediately. Don't keep them to yourself, don't create elaborate plans. Talk. I agree. Third, I want to meet your friends, your family, your world, and you'll meet my friends and my world. No separate relationships. I completely agree. And fourth, we'll go to couples therapy. Therapy. Yes, I want a professional to help us build a solid foundation for this relationship. If you think it's necessary, I accept. I think it's essential. Then it's settled. Mrs. Helen clapped her hands. There. Now I can die in peace knowing my daughter has found a man who will fight for her. Mom, don't talk about dying, Emily protested. It's just an expression, dear. I still have to see my grandchildren being born. Andrew and Emily looked at each other, both blushing at Mrs. Helen's comment. Easy, Mom. Let's take it slow, Emily laughed. I don't have that much time to wait, Mrs. Helen joked. Andrew stood up and approached Emily. Can I give you a kiss? You may. It was a gentle kiss, full of hope and promises of a better future. How beautiful, Mrs. Helen applauded. Now you really look like a real couple. In the months that followed, Andrew and Emily rebuilt their relationship on completely different foundations. They attended couples therapy every week, talked honestly about their expectations and fears, and gradually rebuilt the lost trust. Andrew kept his promise to integrate Emily into his professional world. He taught her about his businesses and eventually she became his advisor on matters related to the company's social responsibility. Emily returned to nursing school with Andrew's help, but this time she accepted the help knowing it was offered with love, not as a form of control. Mrs. Helen Watson recovered completely from surgery and became a sort of mother to Andrew as well. She often offered wise advice about relationships and life in general. 1 year after the reconciliation, Andrew organized a surprise party to celebrate Emily's graduation as a nurse. He invited all the people who had been important in the couple's journey, the clinic staff, friends of both, and even Richard and Robert. During the party, Andrew asked for everyone's attention to make a speech. I'd like to thank you all for being here on this very special day. Today we're celebrating not only Emily's graduation, but also all the growth we've had as a couple over the past year. Emily stood beside him, radiant in her blue dress. 2 years ago, I met an extraordinary woman and almost lost her because of my own fears. I learned that true love isn't tested, it's lived. It isn't controlled, it's built together. Andrew turned to Emily. Emily, you taught me that trust is the foundation of any solid relationship. You taught me that vulnerability is strength, not weakness. And you taught me that the most beautiful love is the one that makes us want to be better people. He knelt before her, taking a small box from his pocket. That's why I want to ask if you'll agree to spend the rest of your life teaching me to be a better man every day. Emily covered her mouth with her hands, emotional. Emily Watson, will you marry me? Yes, she answered through tears. Yes, I will. Everyone applauded as Andrew placed the ring on Emily's finger and kissed her. Mrs. Helen Watson, who was in the front row in her wheelchair, cried with emotion. My daughter deserves all this happiness, she said to Robert, who had become a great friend of the family. Dr. Andrew deserves it too, Mrs. Helen. He's become a much better man, Robert replied, equally emotional. The party continued late into the night with lots of music, dancing and joy. Andrew and Emily didn't leave each other's side for a single moment, planning together every detail of the future they wanted to build. When the party was coming to an end, Emily pulled Andrew aside to a more private corner. Andrew, can I confess something? Of course, my love. All this time, part of me knew you were the window cleaner. What do you mean? Your hands. You never had the hands of a window cleaner. And your eyes? When you looked at me through the glass, they had the same expression as when you looked at me during our dates. And why did you never say anything? Because I wanted to see how far you would go, and also because I was curious to discover who you really were beneath all that distrust. You knew me better than I knew myself. That's what people who love us are for, isn't it? To know us better than we know ourselves sometimes. Emily, I love you so much. I love you too. And now let's live this love story the right way. The right way. With trust, honesty, and lots of love. They kissed again, sealing not just the engagement, but also the entire journey of growth and learning that had brought them there. Mrs. Helen Watson, watching from afar, sighed with contentment. Now, yes, she murmured to herself. Now they understood that true love isn't won through tests, it's won through devotion. 6 months later, Andrew and Emily were married in an intimate ceremony at the clinic where it all began. Mrs. Helen was the matron of honor, Robert was the best man, and Richard was the one who walked Emily down the aisle. During the vows, Andrew promised, I promise I will always talk to you about my fears, instead of acting based on them. I promise I will trust you every day, and that I will constantly work to earn your trust too. Emily promised, I promise I will always be honest with you about everything, including my vulnerabilities. I promise I will help you grow as a person, just as you helped me grow too. When the justice of the peace declared them husband and wife, everyone present knew they were witnessing not just a wedding, but the conclusion of a story of redemption and true love. Years later, Andrew and Emily set up an institute that offered scholarships to children of retired teachers. The institute was named after Mrs. Helen, who had become not only the inspiration for the project, but also the supervisor of all activities. Richard was promoted to operations director of Andrew's company, and Robert became the godfather of the couple's first child, a boy named Gabriel, in honor of the angel who appeared in Edward Miller's life at the beginning of our story. The story of Andrew and Emily became an example of how true love can overcome any obstacle, as long as people are willing to grow, change, and fight for what really matters. And Mrs. Helen, well, she lived to see not only Gabriel born, but also his younger sister Helen, who came into the world 2 years later with the same bright eyes as her grandmother. On Sunday afternoons, when the whole family gathered at Andrew and Emily's house, Mrs. Helen would tell her grandchildren the story of how Grandpa had disguised himself as a window cleaner to win Grandma's heart. Grandpa was silly when he was younger, she would say, bouncing Gabriel on her lap. He thought he needed to test Grandma's love when he really just needed to trust in it. And did Grandma forgive Grandpa? Gabriel would ask with his 4 years of age. She did, because Grandpa showed he had learned to be a better person, and because sometimes love is about giving second chances to those who truly deserve them. I'm going to give second chances too when I grow up, Gabriel declared solemnly. Yes, you will, my love. But first, try to get everything right the first time, Mrs. Helen would laugh, looking at Andrew and Emily, who watched the scene holding hands. And so ends our story, with a family united by love, by trust earned over time, and by the wisdom that the best relationship is one where two people decide to grow together, learning from each other every day. End of story. Now tell us what you thought of this moving story. Do you think Andrew deserved Emily's forgiveness? Leave your honest opinion in the comments. If you have a similar story to share or know someone who went through a similar situation, tell us about it too. Don't forget to leave your like and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss other touching stories like this one.